Hi, I'm Ray.
And I'm Nez, and welcome to the Unstable Podcast.
Let's get into it.
So today, I'm going to have Ray John introduce the topic again. Why don't you tell us what we're talking about today, friend?
Today's topic is dating, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
All right. We asked y'all on Instagram to answer a poll, and this was the winner. Okay, so
Yes.
y'all vote. Y'all need to vote on them polls moving forward, because if you want to hear something, you got to make sure you cast your votes.
Right. So, this is the topic it trickled down to. And disclaimer is talking about dating and our experiences. Just show a little grace.
Yes,
We're all
please.
human. That also goes to you, friend, and to
Yeah,
myself.
Thank you.
Because it's been a journey. It's been a journey. Okay? But this is the ebb and the flows of navigating the 20-somethings. And
Yes.
dating is definitely a part of it. And trying to find your person. And what does that look like and mean? So, that is our topic for
I'm
the
gonna
day.
keep my comments to myself.
I mean, throw them out there. What do you have to say?
Oh, nothing. We'll get into
You
it.
sure?
Not too long from now.
Okay. But again, like mentioned in previous episode, this is the safest space I have. And speaking with her about this topic, so our hope is to share that space with you all. And of course, always go to our Spotify, our YouTube, our Apple Podcast if you have any comments or any feedback about our conversation we're going to have today.
Let us know.
We can bring it up in another episode. Yeah.
Let us know. Feedback.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any disclaimers, friend? Any disclaimers, friend? Gosh, I feel like I just had a stroke.
My disclaimer is that everybody does their own thing differently. Just because we're talking about this doesn't mean that it's the right or the wrong way to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
We're just giving you our experience. So take with this what you will, essentially.
Grain of salt.
Yeah, that's my disclaimer.
Okay. You nervous?
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all.
So first of all, I'm way more open to this topic than I think she is. But this is why we do it.
Rajon is very in touch with her emotions, y'all. Okay? Me, not so much. Remember we talked about being opposites?
Mm-hmm.
This is where we are heavily opposites. Okay?
Yeah. And you're about to see it.
You're about to see it unfold in real time.
With one of the most vulnerable topics we could have chosen in the first few episodes of this podcast. So let's just rip the Band-Aid off.
Let's just get into it. Like, dating means like 15 things to different people. Like, at one point in time, dating meant like you were going steady with a person and it was just you and them and it was exclusive. Now there's like dating where it's just like, oh, I'm just dating around. I'm dating multiple people at the same time. Non-exclusively. And then there's all those phases in between, like talking, exclusively talking, dating, exclusively dating. We're in a relationship. It's a lot. It's very hard to navigate today. So to me personally, when I say that I'm dating someone, I am only dating that person. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel about it. Since we're just getting our vocabulary out there. When I say dating, I mean exclusively one-on-one, one person kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So
I think my definition of dating has evolved over time, rightfully so. Because originally, when I'm just saying I'm dating, to me it did mean a committed me and you situation. Didn't mean that on the other side. No, it did not. So I think I will say that I have maybe at least 2 levels, because I know everyone has all this talking and da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
Of like dating as far as trying to find a potential partner.
Okay.
Dating like around, But then I think there's a separation from like I'm in a committed relationship. And to me, if we're dating, around, I think you're still shopping out there. Again,
Absolutely.
this has been an evolution of the terms for me personally because it meant something else. But I settled into when I'm dating, like dating around. And no, that does not mean sleeping with everybody, but to each their own. So dating around as far as going on dates, trying to find your partner, and then to me, being in a committed relationship is me and that one other person. No one else is included.
Okay. I think that's fair. I think it's interesting that your idea of it has evolved as well, like throughout time. I think for me, my idea of what dating is has remained the same, but my idea of what the other stages are has evolved over time, if that makes sense.
Is it strange that more recently, the whole talking, maybe it's more recently for me too, the whole I'm talking to someone, I've kind of just thrown that one out the window, threw that one in the trash. I'm talking to someone. No.
I use that as like my dating around term.
Okay.
So like when I
Okay.
say I'm talking to someone, it doesn't mean that they're the only person I'm talking to. It doesn't mean that like I'm like super emotionally connected to this person. It just means we're talking, like we're getting to know, and I could be talking and getting to know multiple people at the same time. So that your version of dating around is my version of talking.
Okay. See,
Because I don't
we
refer to it
complicate
as
this.
I don't refer to it as just chatting, because I feel like previously people are like, "Oh, we're talking" means you're not going on dates, you're really just chatting, like being pen pals. And I don't need a pen pal.
No.
So I feel like for me, talking is dating around in your vocabulary. This episode is titled "The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly."
Yes, it is.
But we're not going to go in that specific order. We're going to go in a different order, and we're going to end off on the good, because it's always nice to end on a high note, on a positive
So where we
note.
want to start then? We want to start with the ugly or the bad?
I feel like the bad is the worst, so we're going to go with the bad, the ugly, and the good. That's how we're going to go with it today.
Okay. I like that.
All right, so now that we're on to the bad segment, I got a couple questions. We got a couple questions lined up just to get us going. And you know how we roll at this point. We just keep talking and figure out where we're trying to go with the question. So first things first is, how do you think the expectations from ourselves and from other people impact your dating experience, or the dating experience in general? I guess this is the assumption that we're talking about bad expectations, or like
Bad
expectations that
expectations.
shouldn't be held onto ourselves or to other people.
I think personally, when I look back at my journey, my personal expectations towards dating, where it impacted the dating experience in a negative way, was assuming that everyone has my best interests at heart. And depending on, again, because my evolution of the definition of dating has changed, if that was at the time during a talking stage or dating around or whatever, just having the expectation that everybody is going to treat me like I treat them, or have the same amount of respect. And I think that was just being naive to how mean the world can be, or how mean people can be sometimes. And so just having that expectation really negatively impacted me. I wish and I would hope that we could live in that, but that just wasn't the reality. And something, again, over I say a long period of time, I had to come to realize, like, not everyone's gonna treat me like I want to be treated. You know, I can treat others how I want to be treated, but I can't have the assumption and the expectation that everyone will treat me how I want to be treated.
Which is just so crazy to think about too, because like, obviously I know you at this point and you are inherently a good person, and like the people people closest to us, like non-romantic relationships, like know how we are as people and know how we treat people that we are in platonic or familial relationships with. And it's just so crazy that like not everyone's like this. Like some people have their own stuff going on and aren't really ready to, like, you know, be down for just one person kind of thing. But it's just so crazy how so many people would like take advantage of you just inherently being a nice person and just wanting to like be happy with someone else or make someone else happy in a relationship. Because like that's just so crazy and frustrating to me. Like, you really decided to do me like this, like me who has done nothing wrong to you, me who has done everything to support and uplift you and be nothing but loving to you, and you've decided to do me like this, like me.
Yeah. And she, you know, my friend right here, she's seen me through some of those scenarios that I'm alluding to where, that was really the question. It was just like, why can I put so much into this and then still be treated this way? Like, it really challenges, like, am I as good as I think I am to be treated this way? Am I being punished in some way? And up until present day, I've always had, with any trials that I've had in relationships, I've always had the prayer to God to just maintain the love in my heart, because I hate the thought of thinking that I'll find my person and then not have the love that I'm spewing into the people who don't deserve it. And I just really prayed that my heart wouldn't turn cold from those experiences. But again, a piece of taking that accountability of just expecting people to be like I was or treat me like I was treating them. The other one, and then I'm going to switch over to you, friend. When it comes to outside perspectives that negatively influence me, I think there was a point in time where I was leaning on outside perspectives of certain relationships to give me the clarity that I already knew that I had in myself about what was going on. And their positive view that was juxtaposed to my negative feelings negatively impacted the relationship, because then I wasn't listening to my core self. But again, taking that responsibility, I don't know what I was seeking. Maybe it was the reassurance, or maybe it was the green light to say, hey, this wasn't good. But it was the opposite, because people outside of you in your relationship are only seeing
a little piece that you're letting them see,
and what you're communicating about the relationship. So I think those are like some two big ones if I overcast just my history of why it's been bad.
That means it's my turn.
I'm going to pass it back to you, Nez, in the field.
In these trenches.
In the trenches?
So I would say something, I think an expectation that I had more so of others that has definitely evolved from like when I first started dating people to where I am now is the expectation that everyone is dating to be in a long-term relationship. Yeah.
Knee slapper.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, you know, not everyone knows this, but I am very much a relationship girly, okay?
I understand.
Very much so. Not everyone, I don't think everyone would know that about me, but I am a relationship girly. And so I feel like when I approach dating people or, you know, trying to get to know people, I'm doing it from a light of like, oh, like, let me see how we connect and like how we are together and mesh together for a long-term thing. Not necessarily like, oh, I'm going to marry this person. But I personally don't go into relationships and dating people thinking that, oh, this is just a for now thing. Like, I'll date you for a few months and then next thing. Because to me, my point of view, I feel like that's wasting people's time. Like, I don't think that you necessarily should be, my opinion, I don't think that you necessarily should be wasting people's time like that. Like, oh yeah, I'll keep you around. We'll like have some feelings, have a little, you know, whatever. And then we'll break up in a few months because I wasn't planning anything committed with you anyway. I think that's something different. I don't think that's like a, oh, this is my boyfriend. I feel like that's kind of more of a situation.
So question.
Did I say that twice? I did.
Maybe. That's all right.
I did.
So question, because this is where, especially to our viewers, we're having the disclaimer, to each their own. How you manage your life is how you manage your life. Now, just throwing an example out there. Someone dates you intentionally and it's like, you know, I want something serious. But then down the line, they're like, I don't think this is for me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel tricked in some way? Like, how do you know? I don't even know if that question makes sense. Because
No,
I think
it
people
does,
do
because
have their
it's hard.
own ways
Yeah.
to date.
They have their own ways to date. They have their own timelines that they're not always sharing with people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that part is hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because people can start off intentional and say they like this, say they like that, and it looks like it's going one way, and then the next minute be like, this isn't working for me. But I think there's definitely ways to go about it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like some people know off rip and they treat you like that off rip, and then this is where, you know, we have to take some accountability on our own, is like, this person is not treating you like someone who wants to be in something long term, even though that might be what they're saying. That's not what they're doing. Right. That's not how they're treating you. So that requires like some accountability on our side. Like, this isn't what's good for me. This isn't what's positive for me. So I should leave, kind of thing. But for the scenario that you're referring to, like, this is kind of something that you've told me several times. Like, if you don't risk it, there's no biscuit, kind of low key. Like, you gotta put yourself out there. Like, you gotta try.
Closed mouths don't get fed. Your husband's not gonna kick in your door. Okay.
So
we're calling the police on that man. You come busting in the back door looking for me. I'm calling the police.
Unless it's like on fire or something and you're the firefighters, please kick the door down and come save me. Thank you. But in general, like, that's kind of like the risk taking part, like the taking a leap of faith kind of thing. Like, you won't know until you try. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at least you tried, kind of thing.
Right.
So, all that to say, not everyone is always on the same page as you. And I've had to learn that very quickly. And it's like weird to have these conversations with people like early on in the whole dating process. But I think it's better than like waiting and being blindsided like 4, 5, 6 months in with someone. And then all of a sudden they tell you, I'm not really looking for a serious relationship right now. And now you feel like you've been hoodwinked. Like, I feel like this is why some of these conversations and expectations and like where, you know, where you're at in your life needs to be had kind of early on when you're talking to someone, getting to know someone, dating someone, however you want to like frame it.
Okay. So challenges, the bad of what you're saying is having that expectation that everyone is wanting a long-term relationship. And we have found that not to be true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So moving on.
Hold on.
Huh? No.
Are you moving on to a different question?
Yeah.
No, honey. What about people outside of you? Like expectations maybe of those outside of you?
Thing that kind of, I don't know if it puts people off or it makes it weird. It just depends on the person, honestly, is, we've talked about this before, is my career, essentially, what I'm going into. I think people have expectations, whether they be good or bad, of like what dating me will look like because I'm in medicine. Whether that be, you know, they expect me to not have any time, or whether that be they feel like neglected because I don't have the time to speak to them as frequently as they would like to. I think the expectations, in terms of the question, comes down to people expecting you to be readily available all the time. And if you're not, then it's like, oh, you're not interested, kind of thing. Which I've ran into a few times, where people get mad that I didn't text them back, but I was like, I didn't have my phone for like 8 of those hours that you were asking me to text you back, or I had it, or I couldn't look at it.
I'm the people. Just kidding. But not really. Anyway,
but like,
it's not about
kind of
me.
for real. And it's like, I'm not neglecting you. It's just like, I am physically not capable of being on my phone. So I think that's kind of an expectation, like outside expectation, that, oh, if I send you a text, you're supposed to answer within 30 minutes. Otherwise, you're playing games, or you're not, you know, committed, or you don't want to talk to me, you don't want to get to know me, you're,
No, I
trying to
just
play
gotta pay
me.
these bills. Gotta pay the bills.
Okay.
It's okay,
So,
friend. You're doing
yeah.
great.
I'll be trying,
You be doing.
I'll be trying.
Okay. Good start. I love the juicy tea. Okay, next question is...
Yes, ma'am.
What are some red flags you've learned to recognize in dating?
Immediately comes to mind is, this has to do with my career and my job, or what will be my job. We're on the way to securing a job. But I think a lot of people, and I'm not going to say everyone, but a lot of people kind of get intimidated that is what's going to be my job. And they make a lot of like side jokes or side remarks like early on in our talking stage. And that kind of feels like a red flag to me, like whether it be talking about like, oh, you're going to be busy. Oh, you're going to make this much money. Or, oh, how can I keep up with you? Like, you're very independent, blah, 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 blah. Why do you need me? For examples. And I feel like I've learned that those are red flags. Because at first it feels a little bit like flattery. Like, oh, wow, like you've got everything going for you.
Compliment.
Like, it's exactly. It feels a little backhanded. But then over time, I've learned that a lot of that is usually like deep insecurity on their behalf. And that feels very much like a red flag to me, because I don't want someone to resent me for the career and the job that I am passionate about and that I've worked so hard to get to. I want someone who's going to support me and uplift me and be proud of me for doing that. So I think that's one of the red flags that I've noticed. What's another red flag? Oh, my personal favorite red flag is like, it's like love bombing essentially. I don't know if everyone realizes that love bombing can be a red flag, but to me it very much is. Like, from calling me babe, love, darling, everything off rip.
I just
too
got
much.
sick just hearing it out of you.
I'm not your babe. You don't love me. We've been talking for a week. Like, that's too much. Okay. To telling me how I'm everything that you see, everything that you want in a person, everything that's, great for you moving forward. Like, all of that. It's sure from someone that I've been with for an extended period of time, someone who is my man for an extended period of time. Love to hear that. Like, would melt me, put me in a puddle. But for someone, we haven't even established what's going on here. You're talking too much and you don't have enough action. So I would say those are my big ones.
All I could think was like, wow, there's been so much growth, because at one point in time, I would have been for all of that love bombing
What?
stuff. Like, and I'm talking about like high school,
Yeah.
probably early college.
Yes.
Me.
I would have been eating it up.
Like, oh
my God, he really likes me. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So yeah. Now your turn. What are some red flags
Okay.
that you have learned to look out for?
I just want to kind of jump across all of maybe I don't know if it's superficial. I'm not talking about like money right now, or like, let's just assume, of course, I would love a man with ambition and da-da-da-da-da. Okay? But, and I'm saying that because this red flag is probably just a personal one. It goes back to kind of insecurity of the other person. Because Janez knows this, and I started to make it my thing, is that when I was dating, going on first dates, I'm wearing heels on the first date.
Ooh, good one. That's a good one.
I am.
That's a good one.
And the reason for that is because over time, and especially getting through high school, I had to come to accept, my height in a very, very short period where I was a tad insecure about the height, being too tall. No one's going to want to date me. I'm tall. I'm 5'10". Okay? Hair down, no heels on. 5'10" and a half. 5'10" and a half. Okay? So I started to take it upon myself, recognizing that I like to wear heels. I don't know. I felt like
She does, y'all.
the length,
she be forcing
I
me
do.
to put heels
I be
on.
forcing her, and it just became one of my like filters. when I'm on dates, because I was running into men who, when I would wear heels, oh my gosh, you're so tall, or just keep talking about it. And I'm like, well, I have heels on, and move on. And it keeps coming up. I'm like, okay,
Right.
this is an issue for you, not for me.
Right.
So I wanted someone at the time that would encourage and be like supportive of, if I feel confident in myself, why would you try to bring that down to make you feel better, you know? And I'm not saying that's every man, clearly. It's not every man. But there were a few where I was just like, yeah, this.
And it's one thing to like say it once, right? Like, because a lot of times
it's a shock.
It's one, especially if you've never really met this person, like it's one thing to say it one time, but if you keep bringing up like, this is a pattern, this is bothering you.
Okay, this is like, it really bothers you. And I think there was one person in my past that like complimented me being in heels, and I took them like, wow, this is how I'm supposed to feel, especially when I'm with somebody. Like, trying to shrink myself for the sake of someone else wasn't anything that I wanted to do anymore. So that's, again, personal red flag, and it's not one of these. That's why I say it. Of course, I want you ambitious and all this stuff, but like, that's just a personal thing where I'm just like, it won't work for me. Yeah. Another red flag that I've come to learn is probably anyone being evasive to questions when it comes to talking about the future. This is a new realization.
That's a good one.
Because going back to what you were talking about before, is that me and her are relationship girlies. Like, I'm not for the fling, I'm not for the hookup. Like, if I am dating around, is to know and learn who's going to potentially be a long-term partner, based off of, again, red flags, non-negotiables, if the things that we want in life align. So asking those hard questions up front, what I came to learn is that if someone doesn't want to answer the question of, do you want kids one day? And that's too much. I'm not talking about first date, but in the first few dates.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, let me have your kids.
Right. It's not saying, do you want to have kids with me? It's just a general question.
Right. Because I know for me, it's a non-negotiable. I want to be a mom one day, whenever the Lord blesses me. That's a goal of mine. So if we're not aligned in that,
yeah, we
don't even need to continue. It's okay.
Right.
Have I always been this way? Absolutely not. But that is, honestly, listen, I'm in the late 20s now, you know. But that is a more in depth like red flag of, if I'm asking you some long-term questions about your values or where you see your life or what you learned from your last relationships, and you are bobbing and weaving, and I think we're good. It's been a great time. Thank you for your time.
Right.
But I'll move on now.
All right. It's time to get into the ugly.
Okay.
The ugly. So, next thing I want to ask you, friend, is because in today's day and age, them dating apps is something serious. So, what are some of your biggest, like, frustrations you felt while using these dating apps?
It's frustration with using the apps. Just being so quick to be just over a conversation. Again, you start out, hey baby, huh? Whose baby am I? And I really have to ask myself too, it's just like, what are the expectations of someone starting a conversation online? Like, what am I needing? Like,
yeah,
gotta do some self-reflection, but like, everybody, it's the same. Hey baby, hey honey, hey sweetheart, oh wow, you look so fine, da da da. And I'm a respectable young lady. Okay, I don't have anything absurd didn't have anything absurd on the apps that are like it's like my art, a picture of me, my dog, you know. Hey, sexy.
Stop it.
I'm okay.
I'm good off that.
So I think that was frustrating. And then I think you just get tired. Sometimes I got tired of just swiping. So then it's a frustration with myself. It's just like, what am I looking for? Am I being too nitpicky? And then am I lowering my standards? You know, like, And the thing with dating apps, like, yeah, there's so many options out there. That could be a good and a bad thing. That could be a good and the ugly. That can be the ugly piece of it. Is that there's so much access to so many people where it's just like next. And
it's quick too.
And it's superficial, right? So it's like, and her and I have talked about this. There are some things that are just like, I'm not going for that. And I have to even say some of it is like superficial stuff. Like, I don't know this person. Really.
Yeah.
And they could be saying the same things about me. So I think that's the ugly part of the dating apps is like, you're going off face value.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say it's the opposite of Love is Blind.
Literally.
Okay? Love is not blind.
You're literally judging a book by its cover. That's it.
Yeah. So I think that's the frustrating piece. Not only experiencing it, but then like I'm imagining being affected by it too. How many people have just moved on from me because of the fact that I'm 5'10", literally. Yeah. So I think that's frustrating and really just keeping up with it. People ghost me, or like I've was interested and then was off for like weeks at a time.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I got busy. Because I know I've used that. People use it on me. I'm just like,
the infamous, sorry, I don't check this that much.
Sorry, I'm barely on here. Follow me on Instagram. So, yeah, and then there's tons of apps. Like, that's the frustrating. There's so many, you know. What about you? Come on, hit me with it. I know you got something. Dang.
One thing that's frustrating is let's say you match with some people, and the match will just sit there. And neither side will say anything. And I think part of that might be coming from me, because I'm like, I don't want to say something first. Like, say something to me first. But I think that can be frustrating. Like I matched with you like a week ago. Are we just gonna look at each other matched here? Are you not using the app anymore? Should I just unmatch you? Is this a waste of my time? Like, that is so frustrating. And then what else is frustrating? I think I'm trying to figure out how to say this. I think the apps are very much rigged in a way to make you use money and pay money. It's like they figure out who your type is and they hide them in jail. You know specifically which app I'm referring to. And they're like, pay money for this so you can see these people who like match your type. So then it's like, why aren't you showing me the people who are actually my type? Like, I don't understand why it needs to be shrouded in this whole like money situation. Like, I don't get it. Like, it really upsets me, because if you're in the business of helping find people love, you're being very manipulative, and I don't appreciate it.
On the spot question, have you ever paid the money?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I don't have money to begin with right now.
I'm gonna keep my $5.99.
I'm keeping it. Listen, I'm not swimming in it right now as we speak, let alone to just throw some money away and hope they respond.
Let me pay and he not be my side.
And he don't respond. Like, I'm not.
False advertising.
Yes.
Is what my complaint. I'm reviewing
absolutely.
The app.
So anyway, that is very much frustrating. And I think kind of what you were saying is, like, along the lines of what you were saying is, it gets to be so much, like, you just keep swiping yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Talk to somebody superficially for like 3 seconds. I'm tired of having the same conversation over and over again. Like, everyone comes with like their script of what questions they want to ask you. And it gets old. I'm sick of having the same conversations over and over again. And so then you delete the app and you're like, all right, I need a break. It's going to be okay. I have restored faith in humanity that I'll meet someone in real life. And then something happens and you're like, well, let me just see. And you re-download it and you go through it and you're still pissed off. And then you get pissed off to the point where you delete it. And it's just a vicious cycle. And those that know, they know. Like, my girls understand. My girls understand me right now.
Nez got some beef with the apps. Okay. Some beef.
And that's just how I'm going to leave
her, I'm like, Go. Keep swiping. He's out there.
And why is that? And why is that, friend? Why is that?
What?
Why are you telling me to keep swiping? You don't believe it's going to be great on the apps. Why do you feel that way?
Because I'm a success story.
Okay. I have a handful of friends be like, oh my God, I'm a success story. I'll be like, well, I'm not. So
Yet.
Anyway.
Okay, coming back.
There's my frustrations.
I really feel the frustration coming across my ears right now. And that's okay. Yeah. And but social media, I think there's a factor of just being an addiction of like, let me go back, let me see. And we can go into like COVID and things being more online and just I can't speak for everybody that no one is meeting people outdoors, but the apps are very much a part of the dating. Yeah, they definitely are, but the apps are definitely a part of the dating scene and how we're meeting people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's going to be frustration out there in the public. There's going to be frustration at home on the apps.
In general.
Like, I think being vulnerable and throwing yourself out there is just a frustrating experience.
Yeah.
Good and the bad. Stable and unstable.
Yeah.
So, phew. It's okay, friend.
I got a bone to pick with these app makers. I got a bone to pick.
I know. It's okay. And especially for someone in her career, reminder, you don't have a lot of time to just be out frolicking
in the streets hoping to bump into someone. Like, no, it's very intentional, my time.
Yeah, it's okay.
So,
it's okay. Not me. It's okay, friend. It's all right.
It's okay.
It'll be fine.
Everything's going to be fine. Thanks, Mom.
Sorry. Sorry. I just know the in-depth frustration, okay? So
yes.
That comfort is coming from a place.
Yes. Many a late night chats between you and I.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's all right. Okay, so there was some ugly there. Another question towards the ugly. How do societal pressures influence your dating experience? And have they ever led to negative outcomes?
Whoa. This is a heavy one. This is a good one. This is a good question. That's a good question.
Okay.
I feel like the societal influence on dating is heavy, right? Mm-hmm. Especially for us women. I just feel like we all get so wrapped up in our timeline, right? Like, whether you want to admit it or not, we all have a timeline. And by my timeline standards from when I was younger, I'm behind, okay? And society definitely doesn't help with that, right? Like, every 2 seconds you turn around, like, and this is just in terms of relationships. Like, this is not what's important to everyone. Like, not everyone wants to get married. Not everyone wants to have a family. Not everyone wants to have kids. But I feel like for those of us who do, I feel like every 2 seconds somebody's getting engaged, somebody about to have a child, somebody's pregnant, somebody's in a new relationship. So I feel like that's definitely societal pressure when you see it all around you, that you're like, oh my gosh, like, am I behind? Like, how am I going to play catch up in this game? There's no way to, like, catch up in this game. Like, you can't be like, oh, I'm going to meet someone tomorrow, and that's exactly what's going to happen. And then, 2 seconds later, oh, I'm going to be engaged, and then I'm caught up now. My timeline works. Which is kind of what makes it so scary. You know what I mean? Like, it makes you feel like certain parts of your life are, like, progressing rapidly. You're so proud of those parts. But then it can make you feel like you're stagnant in other areas where other people are, like, having and flourishing and having a lot of success. So I think the societal pressure causes you to compare yourself to others nonstop. And I think that is only worsened by social media being so prevalent in our society. Because I think without social media, like, you wouldn't really see all these engagements and everything like that. It would be word of mouth, you know what I mean? Or, like, who's in your immediate circle might be engaged or having a baby, but not every acquaintance that you've known through every different walk of your life is engaged and having a baby. or graduating or securing this job or whatever it is that might be your trigger in society. I'm just specifically speaking about dating. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I wouldn't necessarily say it would have like a negative outcome on my dating experience, because yeah, it's not like I'm going into these, like, I'm not going on a first date with someone and be like, so are you ready to get married tomorrow? No, bye. Right? Like, I don't think I use it. It negatively impacts me in that way. I think it's more of like a personal thing where it's like, am I behind? How do I catch up? Oh, wait, there's no way to catch up. You just have to be patient for your person to come along.
I could see how it doesn't impact you face to face with somebody and like you're questioning, or like, yeah, do you want to get married tomorrow? Are you the one? Let me know right now on the first date so I can give up or move on, you know?
Right.
But yeah, I can definitely see it impacting you individually, but then I'm wondering if it comes back around full circle of subconsciously impacting the one-on-one, like to get out there to feel swipe. Yeah. Where's my person? Like, let me go on this date with someone who may or may not be my match. Find out they're really not my match. Shouldn't have came here anyway. You know, that pressure, not like directly at the person.
I think that's something that you, again, have helped me realize a little bit, because it's like you deal with that and you internalize it. And then some people are like, I'm going to go on more dates. I'm going to meet more people. I'm going to put myself out there more. And in this aspect of my life, I do the opposite. I'm like, well, I'm just finna stay home. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to talk to nobody. I'm not going to swipe on no apps. That's just it. I'm done. Canceled. Done trying.
And that's where I'm like, your husband's not kicking down your door. Yes. You have to go outside. You have to
exactly
you have to try.
Because it just feels safer, right? Because it's like, if I'm not meeting anybody on these apps, I'm not meeting anybody in real life, what's the point of even trying? I know what it's like to just be with me. I know what it's like to be comfy by myself. I've been doing it for all this time. So that's the challenge I'm still working on.
You bring up two thoughts for me. First one is comparison is a thief of all joy. We know
Period.
That. And again, to put yourself out there to date, vulnerability is always going to be an aspect. Doesn't matter. There's no way around it. Sorry to break it to your friend. And I tell her this on a daily basis, is like, because it's hard to be vulnerable. It is. And, you know, when I having these prayers of, Lord, don't let my heart turn cold, it's because I know that I'm willing to throw myself out there, and I will be eventually again, even through heartbreak. But it's the thing necessary. If I want to be seen and heard, I got to throw myself out there. And this is why I speak to my friend this way, even when it's difficult. And I know it's difficult for her, and it has been historically difficult for me. And she's met me where I'm at, and I've met her where she's at. You know, but it's to be encouraging. It's like, if we're praying that, you know, and especially us two who want families one day, and when you're giving it to God, and God put it up in God's hands, just like have the faith that it's going to work out. But that is hard on the day-to-day when loneliness is just surrounding you, and you're trying to have hope that there are good people out there like yourself that are going to meet you where you're at and have the same morals and values and standards. So it's hard. Okay. Sorry, I was going therapeutic on everybody. Reel it in. So as far as how societal pressures influence my dating experience, I think
got him.
I think societal pressures of expectations of what should and should not be happening in a relationship has negatively impacted my experience.
That's a good one.
Yes, it has had the societal pressures that impacted past significant others, which then impacted me, and not having my own view or my own expectations of a relationship. Just thoughts of myself, like, what do I want to have in a relationship? What would it look like for me? Not what this current partner wants, not what mom, dad, or whoever, mom, mom would want, come back.
Continue.
Okay, I gotta redo that bit. So, not the expectations of like my partner or family members, but like, what do I want? And again, for a long period of time, everyone else's view matters so much. So then I'm trying to live up to an expectation that doesn't align with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that really negatively affected my dating experience and has, like, in depth, negatively affected my dating experience. Where, I don't know, I just had a point where just like, is dating for me? And then my mother, love her to death, shout out mom.
Shout out mom.
Asked me at one point of like, what if God's plan is different for you? Just in general. Like we don't know what God's plan is for us, and like, what if the plan isn't to be a mom?
That's tough. That is so tough. Oh my god.
I know. But then if we go back to societal expectation, it's this rhetoric more of like women having families and creating babies and being the homemaker and da-da-da-da. But what if a part of that journey, or what if someone's journey isn't to be with somebody, isn't to make their own family? What if their contribution to this world is something different? And that is a hard pill for me to swallow, even think of. Let me tell you, when she said that, I said, whoa, ma'am. Shh.
You're yelling. You're being too loud.
Let's turn the actually, let me take that mic. Let me take that mic. I'm going to take it back. Okay? Because I don't like what we're saying right now. But yeah, I just couldn't fathom it. And I think now, of course I still have my wants and desires, but society ain't got nothing on the Lord. Society ain't got nothing on God's plan. So,
amen.
Yeah. So two things, not trying to listen internally about like what I want, and then also society projecting their view over like what God's plan could be. I think that's where I forgot myself and I forgot higher power.
Whew.
That's a word. That's a word right now.
Amen. Hallelujah. All right. I think it's time. We've been yapping, y'all. It's time to transition to, we're going to end this episode on our last segment. It's going to be on a positive note. We can talk about the good, the positive sides of dating. And I'll start with your first question.
Okay.
How do you feel, and granted, these are past relationships, obviously, because they're not what you're in right now. But how do you feel like your past relationships and experiences have positively influenced you in your personal growth?
I have quite a bit to say on this one. I have to. I'm glad we're ending on this, but oh man. One, shout out to the Lord, shout out to therapy. Because I don't think with those two aspects, faucets, relationships, that I've had, I would have so much positive things to say about past relationships and what I've learned. And there have been, I've only had now I'm in a third, but two significant relationships in the past that like I was committed, dating, and they were long term. Obviously in between those, there were people who didn't work out or whatever. So I'm going to kind of couple what I learned, little bits of all of them. And with some of the people who spent the block, not even to be with me, but to come back around to potentially like apologize or just acknowledge that time in our lives, I learned from past relationships that nothing was ever, when I say nothing was ever wrong, of course I've grown since those times, but to put my heart out there and do the best that I can and try to treat people right was not a bad thing. It was never a bad thing. Never. The only bad thing from that was questioning if I should be doing the things that I was doing when I was living in what I valued at the time and doing what I thought was kind and gracious and whatever. So I learned that I was doing the best that I could, and that was reassuring. And two, for the individuals that came back around and acknowledged the certain things that were not appropriate or kind, I took away from that there are people that are learning lessons through me or from me When we talk about people being there for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, I was a reason or a season for some of those people. And I'm grateful because maybe and hopefully any relationships they have beyond me, they'll take some of what they learned, as we all do, because we all learn some things from our relationships.
Right.
But that's where I had to let go of like the frustration, the hurt, and the pain. It was just like, this is what came out of it, you know. I learned a lot about myself and a lot about other people. I also developed the confidence to ask the hard questions early. And that came from therapy. That came from, again, why would I want to continue dating someone who doesn't want kids and I know I want them?
Yeah.
You know, and I had to not convince myself not to be, that's not being too much. And that was a negative view I had, like to be too much pressure, to scare some away. Anyone who's meant for me is going to stay. You cannot say the wrong thing to the right person for
to
you.
your person. Okay. Send the text.
You can't.
Make the call.
Send it. Make the call. Ask the question.
Do it.
You know, so I gained that confidence. And to be clear, even with, because we started with the ugly and the bad or whatever, I don't hate men. There are so many podcasts out here and people having these conversations about men and women and dating and da-da-da-da-da. I have my own experience, and I know Nez does too. But I'm very for the man. I support the men. Okay? Love you. Love you so much.
I don't hate
You're
them
great.
either. So I be muttering it sometimes when y'all be pissing me off, but I don't. Okay.
I don't. I think beautiful relationships can happen. I do believe in love. I believe in long-term commitment. I believe in marriage. You know, I think, again, stable, unstable. There are phenomenal things to the dating realm, and there are hard things. So I think also I learned that, like, all men are not evil. That's something I've taken from these past relationships. All men are not evil. All men are just there for, like, your body or sex, you know. There are men out there that want something deeper with you. There are men that care about you, which I've learned. And there are men that can come back around to apologize and be accountable. You know, I think sometimes with ghosting or having conflict, men and women have trouble being accountable. So,
Yeah.
I think I realized from past relationships that it's never too late to go be accountable towards something that you've done wrong. I think it shows a lot of your character. And because of those individuals who apologize, like, I had more respect for them afterwards, because they didn't ask me for anything. They're just like, I'm sorry, that wasn't right. I see how I affected you. So
That's beautiful.
Personal growth, I think. Oh, okay, this is the last one. I've realized that I'm not only being chosen, I'm also getting to choose. Like, for a long time, I think it was like, do they want me? Do they want to be with me? Like, I get to choose too.
Yeah.
I get to assess if you're a good person for me. It's not all in your hands. And that's where, even I speak today, if I'm speaking to women, if I'm at work, it's if someone is being wishy-washy and there is no clarity and that's something you're seeking, you get to decide. Is
Right.
it what you want? Maybe not always, but you can decide. And I think that is a personal growth for me. I get to decide if I'm in this or not, just like
Yeah.
you do. So, that's what I got.
My turn?
Yeah, honey, come on in.
I think a big one that you kind of touched on for me is that I shouldn't have to show up as different versions of myself when I'm dating someone. And I feel like I did that for a long time. I was like, well, let me water it down to make it into like a digestible version of myself so that, you know, you don't think I'm too much, or, you know, that I'm just easygoing and, you know, go with the flow kind of thing. So I think I've learned more so to just show up authentically as myself, which is a great time, I might add.
She's amazing.
But I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and that's fine. I think that's a piece of personal growth that I've had, is that, you know, just because I think I'm great and other people think I'm great doesn't mean my great matches what you are looking for. And that doesn't mean that I need to take it personally and think that I am a problem. We're just not compatible in that way. Which, again, is easier said than done. But I think that's some of my personal growth. I think another piece of personal growth that I had, I too have only had like 2 like relationships that I would call like real relationships. We'll call it 1.5, but I'm not going to get into that. Not going to get into that. We'll just round it up to 2.
Okay.
But I kind of alluded to this in our previous episode. I was talking about how my last year of college was like such a hard time for me. And I was with a partner at that point in time dealing with my depression. And granted, it was my first time having like a full-on terrible bout of depression. And we broke up for several other reasons, not relating to my mental health. But I think dealing with that, like, I wouldn't fully call it a crisis, but it was a crisis for me in that sense. I learned how to ask for help, and I learned how to communicate what I need when I'm going through those times that I will hopefully be able to use with a future partner. Not that I'm hoping to be depressed in my future relationships or be dealing with that. But if it were to happen, because life happens, I will know how to ask for help and I will know how to navigate it a little bit better, which I think was a positive. And then the last one that I'll talk about is being better at setting like boundaries. We talk about spin the block, but your spin the block is in a different way. Your spin the block was people coming back to apologize. My spin the block was let's get back together. It's been enough time now. And I've done that, and I can say for me personally, it never works. And I know it happens for other people where the spin the block comes around and these people have actually changed. But for me personally, it doesn't work. And so I think I've gotten better at setting boundaries when it comes to spinning the block, because we broke up for a reason. It didn't work for a reason. And while you might have changed and you might have grown, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I have also changed and I've also grown. And I don't think that is for us anymore. Reason, season, and lifetime.
You end up feeling icky anyways.
Yes. I'm not going to forget all the stuff that happened before. I'm not going to forget.
If anything, it reminds me.
Exactly. So I'd rather not deal with that venture. So I would say those are my positive personal growths that I've had from my previous relationships, even though obviously they were not the longest term.
Yeah. Beautifully done.
So I'm going to be real frank and real candid with y'all, okay?
We're ready.
Hindsight is 20/20. Hindsight is 20/20. And I can say with utter confidence now that I don't think that I've ever fully been vulnerable in either of my previous relationships.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know, hot take. Looking back, I feel like there were aspects of it, but for me to be like fully like cards on the table, hearts on my sleeve, gonna be vulnerable with you, I don't think I've ever done that. And I don't know, I think some of that is kind of me, like an accountability thing. I have to take accountability for that, and kind of how I navigate my own emotions. And I only really recently became aware of how I navigate my emotions, so there's just no way that version of myself was going to do it. So I don't think I've ever really done that in a romantic relationship. And I think what made me realize that is how I interact in my platonic relationships and my familial relationships. I am very vulnerable with my family. I am very vulnerable with my group of friends that I truly call my friends. Rajon knows. Okay. And like, I can't say it doesn't. It has not translated to a romantic relationship for me yet. I have a couple guy friends who are very close and very near and dear to my heart. And I've even been vulnerable with them, but it just has not translated to my romantic relationships yet. And again, I like, just for example, like crying. Okay. The people that I've listed off are the only people who have ever seen me cry. like, none of my ex-boyfriends have ever seen me cry about anything. No one outside of my small group of people, my small circle, which includes family too, have ever seen me cry. Like, like, thinking about it, like, in hindsight, like, there's been plenty of things that have happened in my 2 relationships that, like, to never cry in front of someone is crazy. Like, it's kind of crazy. But I think also part of it is that, like, these people that I'm describing to you feel like a very safe space for me. Like, they're not going to throw it back on me and, like, make me feel bad for crying about something, or, you know, like, use it against me at a later time. And I think that's where the lack of vulnerability came from in my previous relationships, is maybe I never really felt safe enough to be my full vulnerable self, which says something about the relationship and why they didn't really last, like, long term at the end of the day. But I think the other piece of it is a story for another time and a chat for another episode, where it's like, why do I feel like I need to hold all these things inside? Why do I feel like I can't express my emotions? And that is a story and a conversation for another time.
We don't have time to open that can.
But
the can will be opened.
Yes.
Okay.
Just not today.
Yeah, maybe part 2. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask, as far as the vulnerability piece in your past relationships, is like, is it that you feel like you weren't vulnerable based off of how you're feeling now, or were you vulnerable just at a different level back then? And I don't know, because maybe at the time, did you think you were being vulnerable, and now looking at it, you're like, yeah, no, the walls were up. I don't know.
Friend, I'm looking back. No.
Okay.
No. And it's not
Thanks for
even
being
like
honest.
it's not even like I can sit here. Like, sure, there were moments where there was, like, a peak at vulnerability. But, like, even for myself at that period of time, no.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
like I'm talking about, like, for example, depression. Right? And, like, being sad all the time. I was crying a lot. But still didn't feel like I could let him in on that. Nope. Sorry.
Wow. It's so important. Like, you think about having a life partner, I better be able to cry.
Yes. And ugly cry too. So yeah, no, it's not like I was vulnerable for that time of my life. I just don't think.
Okay. So, safe to assume that you do believe vulnerability plays a huge part.
I think it does. I think
strong
it's going to be a key, like a make or break for me in whoever I end up with next, moving forward, whoever my person is. I think it will be very important for me to get over that barrier, that mental barrier that I kind of have in my future.
Yes. But the work starts today, just so you know. Okay?
Yeah.
It starts right now. You're doing great. Look at you. You already shared things with our audience. Good job.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Girl, I done cried in front of all the men I've been with. Okay? But I don't think that fully encompasses the vulnerability piece for me.
Yeah.
I think, because again, we know I'm a crier. I cry, so I don't think that might not be one of the standards of, like, oh, now I'm vulnerable, right?
Right.
I think there's some other aspects to it, and like I mentioned in our previous episodes, that I feel very safe with you, like, where I can be vulnerable. And I think our friendship, again, not a blueprint, but there's some things from our friendship that I look for in a significant relationship. And a part of that is that safety, or being able to ask for help. Now, being able to ask for help is definitely a part of the vulnerability piece for me. Okay? Asking for the things that I want and that I need, and it not always being just about the other person. And that's what was lacking previously. Vulnerability has always, to me, been a big factor. But again, over time, I think that's the definition of that has looked different for me. Because again, maybe it was, oh, I can express my feelings and cry in front of this person, but back then I couldn't ask for help. And more recently, I think that has been more clear.
Yeah.
Because I am a mental health therapist in which I help people all day.
Very much.
And what we know about the helpers is that sometimes it's difficult to receive help.
Yeah.
So that has challenged me in practicing what I preach, but then also making sure I'm able to ask for help in my relationships. So, and I truly didn't know what, like, to have vulnerability reciprocated on both sides. I haven't had that to this relationship right here, right now. And being able to test the waters. And there are aspects in this relationship that remind me of my close friendships. And I can be myself. And yeah, the only relationship I've thought forward beyond just right now of like, I could see this moving forward personally. Hopefully he would say the same thing.
Beautiful. So beautiful.
But friend, it's the, again, I hate using the word crazy, but I'm gonna use it. The crazy thing is, why is asking you to help me carry this thing or do the dishes after I cook or pump this gas. These are very not basic, but like stereotypical, like, oh, will my man do this for me? But like, can you take the trash out for me? Versus I'm just doing it myself. And I'm so used to that. So the vulnerability of like, I know I can do it myself. I don't want to. And now I have to ask, or I take care of myself by leaning on someone else, a partner that I want to be with, for them to show up for me. And I think if we're in a relationship of any sort, hopefully those relationships are bettering our lives versus making them worse.
Yeah.
So, yes, I am friends with vulnerability. I truly am. I invite it. Like in moments where I'm challenged, I'm like up for the challenge. Like how can I be more if it means a good outcome. So yeah, we're polar opposite. And that's
very much so.
That's okay. That is okay. Hopefully I answered the question.
I think you did. Okay. I think it was a more straightforward answer for you because this is something you practice daily.
Yes, but that has bettered over time. Has not always been this way.
That's true.
You know, I think our starts and a lot of our journeys of like, we've both progressed in many ways, but the awesome part of it is that they're different. And that's where it's like, there's depth to these conversations sometimes. And that's where we learn from one another, friend.
Every day.
I learn a lot from you. I learn a lot
day.
from you. You know, I truly do. Gosh. For real. I say that because this particular topic is like, there's no one up, and I'm not saying you feel that way because I know we both send our prayers
straight up there.
Straight up. Okay. But yeah, I learned so much from you, and I want to make sure that you know that because you have a lot to teach me, and I'm learning every day. Okay. And now I know how people become anemic, and now I know where the esophagus and the trachea and their alignment, and one's in front of the other.
30%.
I'm 30% doctor. Don't look up my license because I don't have one.
Oh, gosh.
So that is some feedback on the good, the bad, and the ugly from us when it comes to dating. And who knows, there could be a part 2. This is a conversation we could continue to have. I think there are so many questions that can come up about dating, but this is just a little taste. And
I mean, y'all know already y'all know already we're certified yappers, so
certified yappers.
We could keep going, but we'll save more for later on.
Yeah. And if you have any questions, again, comment, subscribe,
Send a message, whatever you got to
Share.
do.
Because we would love to keep you involved moving forward of questions you have. We can respond to those, especially during our tea time. So,
And with that, it is time to transition to the segment we like to call tea time. We're gonna keep it brief today with tea time because we was talking a lot just now. And I think Ray has the tea time question for us today.
I sure
Go ahead and
do.
send it.
Okay, so the question I have for us is, what is your current dating status?
Well, in case y'all haven't guessed, I am what we call single as a Pringle. It's just me and my dog. Me and my girl Ember. We be having a good time, but yeah, single.
Single, yeah. And they come as a party of two. You can't get one without
Absolutely.
the other.
Package deal.
Yeah, packaged.
I hope you're not allergic, but if you are, she's hypoallergenic, so
Hypoallergenic.
whatever. Just throwing that out there.
Throwing that out there. Yes, and we already know Miss Daniel's occupation. You know, just throwing it out there. Please contact me if you are interested in her. She's smart. She currently lives in. No, I'm just kidding. You know, friend, my hopes for you, because I love you so much, is one, God covers you in your future relationships, and two, that while your man is out there doing his work to be prepared for you, that you do the work to prepare for him. Okay?
I'm only laughing
because
we've
I
had
know
this conversation so many times.
that's okay. We're inviting the audience in. Because I know when the match happens, okay, we can just jump over the, oh my gosh, I got to do all this work. He's perfect. I wasn't ready for him. No, you'll be ready. You'll be ready. Okay? And it's going to feel like, wow, all this time I've been waiting for him. It was worth it. And all of this time right now, we're just going to sweep it under the rug. Like, it was worth it. It's going to be worth it. So my hope for you is that you remain patient, you open, keep your heart warm, okay? Keep your heart warm. Because anybody who finds you, what does the Bible say? A man who finds a wife finds a good thing.
Yes, there it goes. There it is.
Anyone who finds you,
Hallelujah,
is going to find a good thing, okay?
Phew.
And I know it from experience. She's great. So, keep your heart warm. It's a great heart to know. Again, soft on the inside. Soft on the inside.
Way down in there. All right. Time for Miss Rae to reveal her dating status.
I am currently in a committed, exclusive relationship.
Beautiful.
No
Beautiful.
longer dating. We were a year in a little bit of change. And yeah, one of the best relationships I've ever had thus far. Now, of course, I would say that because he's my current relationship, but the best one. You know, this truly he is. And it took me a little while to adjust to such a kind human who didn't put me through emotional HE double hockey sticks. But yeah, I truly feel like you can have healthy codependency and people that you have in your life make you better. And I got that. And I am very much for the ride because this is a nice ride. Being passionate princess is fun here. So, yeah, I'm off the market and I'm okay with it.
Friend, my hopes and dreams for you in the dating realm are that you continue, because you've been doing the work, okay? You continue to accept the love that you deserve, okay? Because my friend, people have been trying my friend. And I hope that you continue to accept that. And I hope that you continue to explore and feel, what's the word I'm looking for? Feel comfortable enough to have those conversations and have those chats that feel uncomfy, but are ultimately good for you. So that's one of my hopes. My other hope is that, what's my other hope? I have another one. I'm trying to put it into words.
It's okay.
You know, I don't be great with the words.
And that's why I'm patient with you, baby. Go ahead.
Not the mushy words anyway. You know what my other hope is? I figured it out, how to put it in words. You continue to give yourself grace and have patience with yourself in navigating some of the difficult things that you go through internally. Okay? Because I know that's hard. I know it is. And sometimes you're like, well, why can't I just figure this out? Or why can't I just get over this? But it's not easy. And it's not easy to acknowledge it in the first place, let alone to work on it and work through it. So I hope you continue to give yourself grace and patience working through these hard times, working through these hard internal battles that you be fighting. Because you're doing great, but I want you to continue this.
Thank you. Thank you, friend. Look, this is my pillow, okay? This is my pillow right here. She my pillar. She my lighthouse. She my anchor in the sand. But hold it down because
all the metaphors, okay?
All of it, truly. Because clearly we've had many in-depth conversations outside of this podcast about our struggles, and she knows a lot of them in detail. And so I know in depth what she means behind that, and I appreciate that because your mind is not a safe place to play.
Sometimes not so much.
Sometimes you got to get up out of there and just have grace. You're right. Okay, well, that wraps up our tea time and the end of this podcast. And we thank you for joining us again, having these chats.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, we look forward to more.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, all of that. Tell your mama, tell your auntie, tell your brother, tell your cousin, tell whoever you want to tell, but tell somebody. Yeah.
And we look forward to getting into it. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.